Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. The time is 9:02 a.m. and you're listening to and watching Good Morning, Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. After that little bit of martial music, I thought that's a heck of a way to bring us into our conversation with today's guest, a dear friend of ours, Mr. Eric Pry, who is no longer the curator of the GAR. He is the museum director.
Yes, sir.
My man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yep. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling great.
Good.
How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing really good today. You and I talked before the mics came on, and I'm ready for everything that's coming up. Ready to talk about the Aurora Film Festival, but also the veteran screening and portion of this great event.
Yeah.
So before we get started, talk about your role. Talk about GAR real quick.
Yeah, so as the museum director, I oversee the daily operations and of the GAR Military Museum. That's that church-looking building with a couple of cannons out front right here on Downer Place, right next to the city clerk's office, or county clerk's office, and the downtown parking garage. So the building itself is almost 150 years old, built in 1877, and opened as a monument to the Civil War and Aurora's first free public library. So we have a lot of history here, and you know, it's a wonderful place. I mean, there's so much history there, and it's so important to the community, and it's really my honor to be serving as a museum director.
Okay, and how long have you been with the GAR, at the GAR?
Well, I started with the city back in 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been
coming up on 10 years, baby. All right. So for those who are unaware, I don't know how you would be. Good morning to you if you're just joining us. The City of Lights Film Festival is going to be taking place this Friday and Saturday, 8th through 9th. Hey, boys, I need you to be quiet back there, please, just a little bit. It's all good. And Saturday, November 9th, is going to be the special screening for veterans. This portion is what's going to be very important because there's a film that's going to be shown, National Geographic presentation, and it's called Brothers in War, written and directed by Liz Steph. Let's talk about Brothers in War a little bit.
Yeah, so it's a really great documentary. We got to screen it a little bit beforehand just to make sure that this is something that we wanted to show, and of course, I mean, it's National Geographic. Why wouldn't we want to show it? So we were fortunate enough to get the rights for it, and so it documents, you know, the Charlie Company, which is one of the last American regiments, infantry combat units, drafted, trained, and sent over to see combat in Vietnam.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Now, when you talk about getting the rights from National Geographic, which is the first time we've had a conversation like this on the program, what was that process like?
I was not involved in that process.
Okay.
There's a lot, you know, our legal team is involved with that. So the city has people far more experienced and adept at that.
Right.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, that's big. You see National Geographic and you think of Aurora, like, man, that's a big accolade. Good feather in our cap as a city. So there's going to be the screening, which I'd like you to talk about. Then we'll talk about the reception that's going to take place. So tell us about the screening of this of the film and where it'll be.
So the screening itself is free. It's part of Aurora's Film Fest. Most other screenings you have to purchase a ticket for. This one, you just sign up for it. It's all through the city website, aurora-il.org.
Okay.
And or you can just even Google City of Aurora Film Fest, and it'll be the first option on Google there for you.
Right.
And you can get tickets there for any of these films, and there's a few that are quite interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
And but this one in particular, it's at no cost. You can sign up for it and attend the screening. And it's going to be right here at City Hall, second floor, City Council chambers.
Okay.
And we're hoping to start it right at 4:30, but there'll probably be a few minutes leeway there.
Okay. What are we anticipating with the head count?
So it seats 100 people. I don't have the final counts with me right now, but I know we have quite a few people signed up for it.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to a good event, especially taking place here at City Hall. City Hall has done a lot for veterans, as you know, with many different activities going back for a good number of years. So this is going to be absolutely fantastic. And once again, it'll be in City Council chambers on the second floor from 4 to 5:30 p.m. The time is 9:06 a.m. Good morning, Daniel Calderon, Tracy Duran. Tracy Duran says, congratulations, Eric, on becoming the GAR director. How about it? And Lavanja Saxon, good morning to you as well. I know you guys been missing us. We were off for a couple of days, but if you came to Prisco Center last night, you will have seen us with Nicor Gas. Okay, now let's talk about the reception because, as you mentioned, a lot of people may not be familiar with the GAR itself, that church-looking building right by Subway. Tell us about the reception that's going to be taking place there.
Yeah, so this is a continuation or an expansion of the Veteran Day event that's coming up on Monday. We wanted to really show our appreciation to the veteran community, and by doing so, we wanted to have a veteran reception event to honor and again, show our appreciation. I mean, as a nation, we wouldn't be here without our veterans.
Right, absolutely.
So the reception itself starts at 5:45 p.m., and we're going to have plenty of food. We're going to have 2 bars set up, and it's open for veterans, their families, and, of course, their children, of course, included in the families. So we're hoping everyone will come out and enjoy just a little bit of Aurora's history and get some good food.
Hold on now. It's not he's being modest. There's not no little bit of Aurora history in that building. You have flags, regalia, all kinds of other items dating back to the Civil War.
Actually, our oldest item in the collection is from the Revolutionary War.
Oh man, I'm remiss. That's amazing. And also, it was the Daughters of the American Revolution that was the first. I want to make sure I get this right, but you can fill us in. That was the first genesis of that building. Is that correct?
Well, it was a Soldiers Monument Association that really built the building.
Okay.
So the Soldiers Monument Association was founded in 1869 as a commission of the city of Aurora, and they were tasked with creating a monument to honor the contributions of the community. Fred Otis White, he was appointed the secretary in 1869, and for some reason, we don't know quite why, he traveled back to Foxborough, Massachusetts, where he was originally from, and stumbled across a building that was operating as a free public library and a monument to the war. So he liked those ideas so much that he actually brought their designs here to Aurora. That building in Foxborough, Massachusetts still stands. So we've had some conversations with them. They're still around. They're great people. I mean, most museum people are.
Yeah.
You'll be hard pressed to find someone who's not passionate.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they call us Facsimile Hall because we are a facsimile of them. The only difference is we are made out of locally quarried limestone, whereas I'm not quite sure the material their building is, but it's another more of a local stone over there.
Okay.
We also have an addition that was never put on for them.
Is it the Century?
It's actually the Stair Tower. So the Stair Tower, if you're not familiar with the history of the building.
Tried my shot, ladies and gentlemen. I tried my shot. Time
so
is
the Century, actually, they have a very similar Century on top of their building.
Okay.
Yeah. It's so J.W. Fisk was very, my phone's about to fall. J.W. Fisk was the foundry that created those types of sentries.
Okay.
And I'm not quite sure if theirs is a J.W. Fisk. It would make sense because he was the first one to do the Union sentry like that. Okay. I haven't seen close enough pictures to actually see.
Right.
So ours is a J.W. Fisk model. And a little bit of history with that. It's seen some better days. Back in the 60s, I guess his rifle and his hand fell off, and they did some maintenance on that.
Okay. Wow.
Poured some cement in his legs to make sure he doesn't fall.
Right.
And over the next 40 years, that cement would expand and contrast with the temperature. And eventually, in 2008... You know, I studied history. I had no idea how much science was involved.
We're nerding it up at 9, 10 in the morning. I love it. I love it.
In 2008, they took him down to get cleaned.
Okay.
That was when a lot of the restoration and reconstruction of the building was happening, the stabilization of the building.
Right.
It's just a whole other topic. I mean, the building almost fell into the Fox River.
Right. That's something that you and I have talked about. Spoiler alert, we're friends outside of the show, but we've talked about that a couple of times. You told me that walking around the side and everything, and I've seen pictures that you have in the building of what the scenery around it used to look like. Tracy Duran has shared what that looked like too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are the hours of operation if folks want to come on down and check out the museum?
Yeah. So Wednesdays we're open noon to 7 p.m.
Okay.
Thursdays and Fridays, noon to 4, and then Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then we prefer to have private group tours on Mondays and Tuesdays or anytime that we're not open. This way we can give all of our attention to the private tour.
Right.
But absolutely, if anyone wants to have a tour during open hours, all they got to do is send me an email or give me a call.
Okay. All right. The time is 9:12 a.m. If you're just joining us, you're listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. We're here with Museum Director of the GAR, the Grand Army of the Republic, Mr. Eric Pry. Dora Sanchez Soto was here. She says, good morning. Good morning to you, Dora Sanchez Soto. She's the business owner of a fantastic place that supports veterans in the community. It's called McCarty Mills in downtown Aurora, if anybody's interested in hanging out there. And we got an interview that we did with her that we'll showcase very soon on Good Night Aurora. Anyway, question. When you deal with, so you deal with a wide spectrum of the population in the veteran realm. I mean, I've stood there with you in the lobby of the building. Old school veterans come in, taking a look around their first time coming in. You got returning veterans. You got families who say, hey, my dad was in the Marines. What is your favorite part of the community interaction of your job? I know you do administrative stuff, you take care of the items, but when it comes to dealing with the physical people who come in there, what's your favorite aspect of it?
Hearing their stories, really, honestly. I mean, that's when it comes down to it, that's what history is. It's documenting and conserving everyone's story.
Right.
And so it's really great. There was I want to say it was 2 First Fridays ago, we had a retired naval veteran, and I can't remember his rank. I was going to say his rank. I can't remember it for the life of me right now, but he served decades in the Navy. Mm-hmm. And just hearing his stories were fascinating. And it's not even necessarily the wartime or the conflict.
Right.
It's, okay, well, kind of, and forgive me, I was never in the Navy. Mm-hmm. So I told him, I said, I don't know if I should call it boats or ships. And I believe he said submarines are boats.
Yeah, submarines are boats.
Submarines are boats.
Yep, because guys like me who are boatswain mates, we go by boats. Hey, boats,
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely. And, when you're having a colloquial conversation with your boys on the ship, where you going? Man, I'm going back to the boat. So, but yeah, submarine is classified as a boat.
Right.
In our jargon.
And he started listing off all these types of ships. And after he was done, I said, I guess it would have been faster just to ask what kind of ships he hadn't served on.
Yeah. Yep. You mentioned the history, and it's fascinating to hear you say that that's your favorite part about it, because when it's mine too, but for an additional reason, like when you talk to these old school dudes, these Marines, especially like older Navy guys and Army guys, like, I like to know what their life was like the way they talk about the towns they came from.
Yeah.
The price of food back when they joined in 1970. Like, there's so many aspects of their life that I like, and that's really fun and refreshing for me to hear historically.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely cool. Now, speaking of great Navy veterans, we've got two who you know very well, Mr. Dick Miller and Mike Eckberg.
Yes.
Talk about some of the relationships that you have with some of the organizations, different veteran organizations, and the GAR. 9:15 is the time.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, American Legion.
Yep.
Absolutely phenomenal organization, and they've been around for over 100 years.
Yep.
This post here in Aurora.
84.
Yeah.
Shout out.
And because they were 1919. I think they were 1920. Yes. They were founded.
Yep, that's right. By the son of Teddy Roosevelt.
Well, in honor of him.
Because
he was killed in action.
In World War I.
Oh! You got it.
Come on. 9:16 is the time. Okay. But anyway, keep going.
So when I do my research, and a lot of my portion of the research is now based on after the Civil War veterans died, which here in Aurora was 1947.
Okay.
Nationally, 1954.
1947 was when the last veteran in
here in Aurora.
Okay.
Daniel Augustus Wedge. He died on his 106th birthday. I believe it was. It's October either 6 or 26.
Okay.
It was on his 106th birthday.
Amazing.
I mean, talk about seeing everything from the musket to the atom bomb.
Right.
These veterans saw it all. And And that's what we're seeing today. You know, the technology continues to advance at a rapid pace.
Right.
And so that's why I really like to hear their stories of where they came from.
Absolutely.
You know, tonight I'm going to be over at AmVets 103 on Jericho Road. Talking about, you know, our upcoming events as well. And they're a great, phenomenal organization. They have their own facility.
Right.
And, you know, the veteran community has been so welcoming, first of all, to me, but also to the museum, because they understand that, you know, we're not here to put anyone in a bad light. We want to catalog their stories and make sure people remember, you know, war is not good.
Right.
I had a friend ask me, can you be pro-veteran and anti-war? And I said, if you're not anti-war, you're not pro-veteran.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. You know, I think that when I think about Aurora, you took me to one of your locations where, and I remember this, the flag, there was a flag from the Revolutionary War.
Civil War,
that's right. And it was Illinois flag, right?
That was the 36th Illinois Infantry Company B, which is from Aurora.
Okay. Absolutely. I mean, this is not the show to even detail how amazing it is. We need more time for that. But what I was getting at was that I'm fascinated and didn't know the depth of the veteran story as it pertains to Aurora and King County as a whole. Like, you know, I knew that there were veterans around. Veterans make up a large part of American society. But, man, on a local level, Tracy Duran's got books from the high schools and all this going way back when people graduate. You see the names, the streets they lived on. Like, this is actual history that's still around and being cataloged. I mean, it's still a living, breathing thing.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, the Civil War veterans, I mean, you talk about some of the big names like Henry H. Evans. He was 28 years in the Illinois State Senate. You know, he passed very important legislation, including the Illinois Militia Act, which created funding for the Illinois Militia, which is now known as the Illinois National Guard.
Amazing.
He owned, this is a fun fact, before it was Phillips Park, it was known as Evans Park.
Really?
It was Evans that sold the property to the city of Aurora after, I can't remember his first name, but former Mayor Phillips passed away. He left in his will money for the city of Aurora to purchase a plot of land to create a park for everyone. Well, it was Evans who sold the property to the city.
That is amazing. Holy cow. That's Jeopardy right there, man. That's amazing. I'm going to come back. All of you guys come back and watch this episode again and be like, you know what? I know about Evans and Phillips Park. Okay, 9:19 is the time. Still doing good with the time. So now, as we get ready for this upcoming event tonight, I do want to preview some of the additions that have happened with the GAR, though, as well, and kind of give people a feel for what they'll experience there.
Sure.
Now, you guys, this is about 3 years ago now, the renovations that have come to fruition in the downstairs portion of it.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
So when I started here in 2017, there were 3 things I was told would never happen. We would never get the angel statue back across the street.
Come on.
That was my first major project. We would never get the lower level renovated, and we'd never get the Sentry back up top. They said it's, you know, just chances are, you know, we need these really big grants, and, you know, we don't have staff for it, and, you know, we want to be conscious of, you know, taxpayer money, and, you know, how is it it's hard to justify putting millions of dollars into one building when we have to but we have to make sure that we're funding law enforcement, fire, EMS. I mean, there's so many processes of the city that, you know, maybe these will be on the back burner for a little bit.
Right.
In 2019, we received a $750,000 grant, and we were able to complete all of those projects.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal. And, you know, that really is because of the grant writers here and the other funding.
Yes.
I'm going to put that in quotes because it's not my funding.
Yeah, no, understood. Yep.
But, you know, so we were all able to work together and come up with a really good application. And the Illinois Department of Natural Resources funded us $750,000.
That's amazing. And all 3 of those things got done.
That's right.
All 3. Now, what, when we talk about the angel, the recording angel, what Eric is talking about, for those who do know, when you walk into the GAR, you go up the stairs into the lobby, you take a left into the Grand Hall?
We call it the Angel Room.
Angel Room. When you take that left, the statue that's right in the middle is absolutely gorgeous. Very, beautifully crafted and sculpted, and really plays a large part and adds to that room.
Oh, absolutely.
Dare I say, it's the life of that room.
It's absolutely the centerpiece, and it was extremely important to the veterans themselves when the building opened. The recording angel, if you're not familiar, it's the archangel symbolically writing down the names of the unknown dead in the Book of Life. And during the Civil War, there were no dog tags. There's still people buried in mass graves, and they're doing genetic testing nowadays to determine, who these people were.
Right.
And so they were buried without a name, and it was important to the Civil War veterans themselves to make sure that they honored and recognized those contributions.
Right. Yeah. So the time is 9:22 a.m. Jen Ingram, good morning to you as well. So what's next? What's next for the GAR? If you can preview any kind of upcoming programs or anything, let's look into next year. What's next, and then we'll circle back around and talk about Saturday night.
Well, one of our biggest goals for the museum is to really expand programming. We have our exhibits. We have a really great exhibit schedule that isn't too much.
Yeah.
Still 3 exhibits a year, which is quite a lot for a museum our size.
Yeah.
But we always want to make sure that people can learn something new when they come in. So our next biggest goal is to expand our free programming to the Aurora schools through field trips, in-class presentations. We have a travel box or a discovery box where teachers can, quote unquote, rent it out. It's at no cost.
Okay.
And it has a week's worth of programming, lesson plans. It has scans from diaries in our collection, and it has replica artifacts. So the kids can really actually feel what did they use this for? Yeah. It could be just a simple leather pouch, and they can talk about how keep your ammunition in there. Or in World War I, our discovery box for World War I, we have a diary from a local veteran, his time in France and his time in Texas in training. We have both of his diaries, and it's incredible. And then we also have a replica helmet, so the kids can feel how heavy and
yes, and uncomfortable.
Yes.
I mean, imagine trench warfare with that thing on.
Yeah.
Who was Henry Borger?
Oh, Hank Boger.
Yes.
Hank Boger. He is a veteran. So Cal Boger, which is his father, he was an enslaved person before the Civil War. He escaped, and he got connected with somebody. I can't remember the captain's name, but the captain was from Aurora. So after the war, and he followed him around. He kept with him and helped out. I don't believe he was allowed to serve in a combat capacity, but logistics and of course probably cleaning the camp and even cooking.
Yep.
His service isn't well documented because he was never officially in the Army.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he moved here to Aurora afterwards, and he was hired by that captain to work at his shop, and he settled here, raised a family, and Hank Boger was one of his sons. Hank went on to attend University of Illinois, I believe, and received a degree in agricultural sciences, I believe it was called back then. And in 1917, when the United States started getting more involved with the First World War, he ended up enlisting in the U.S. Army and eventually served over in France. His story, though, doesn't end as nearly as light or as bright as his father's, because on the last day of the war, November 11th of 2018, or 2018,
wow.
1918.
No, I get you.
His company was sent on to attack a German position, and he was killed just a few hours before the end of the war.
Terrible. But a storied history on a local level.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. I hadn't known anything about that, walked into the GAR, and just like the history is shared here on our program, it was shared with me that day, and you guys have you've got the image of him in uniform in France, too, as well. 9:26 is the time. Well, so in closing, Brothers in War, written and directed by Liz Steph. Screening is going to be on Saturday, 4 to 5:30 p.m. in City Hall here in the council chambers on the second floor. The reception to be at the Grand Army of the Republic, the GAR, 5:45 to 7 p.m.
That's
on
right.
Saturday. All right. It's going to be absolutely wonderful. National Geographic's own Brothers in War. Feels good to have something so notable, so reputable, and
Right.
so prestigious here in Aurora.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
We came a long way as a city.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's gonna be great.
So the time is 9:27 a.m. So as we close, last word is always going to go to you. What's the message for this upcoming event? But what's the message for the GAR as well?
I always like to tell everyone, history is all around you, and the old. They always say, if you have lived here in the United States, you know somebody, or you yourself are connected to a veteran, and so I guess the message of the day is, sit down, talk with your family members about their service.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily always have to be about the bad times. Ask them about a funny story from when they served.
Right.
They've got plenty.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, 9:28 is the time. I want to say thank you very much once again to our dear friend Eric Pry, Museum Director of the GAR, for coming in to talk to us about what's going on. I can let you guys know that everything that happens in the GAR, all the stuff that's inside of there, is real, tangible, living, breathing history, and we should be proud as Aurorans of all the veterans who've served in our city and local areas around us as well. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the show. I want you guys to come out to the City of Lights Film Festival. The starts Friday, also going on Saturday, and we will share posts about the different locations and everything. Right about now, we are going to wrap up the show. Buenos Dias, Aurora is going to start something new today. Let you guys see that. But Good Morning Aurora will return tomorrow morning with more news, more weather, and the very best of Aurora. Take care of yourself and each other.
Being a local business in Chicago, we've always worked with community banks, but over time, those smaller banks started getting acquired by larger national footprint banks. It became time to work with Wintrust to meet our needs without having to have that big bank feel.
Wintrust understood what they wanted to accomplish, and they've increased in size 5 times over.
As we continue to grow, we're going to keep needing to borrow, so I'm sure they're going to love that.
Serving their needs. It's really the foundation of what Wintrust commercial banking is all about.